Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next episode of Fandom.
Yep.
Today, we're going to get into what we like to term Fanfiction 101. So, this is just going to be a really ground level introductory introductory lesson about fan fiction and what it is and the different forms it can take and how to do it if you're new to the game. So I hope that all sounds really good, and we're going to dive right in. So I'm going to start off by discussing a little bit about what fan fiction is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not familiar with the term fan fiction, it's really what it sounds like. It's fiction written by fans. So it could be fans of anything, books, TV shows, movies, even like the Bible. I think there's fan fiction of the Bible. So it's just, taking an existing piece of media and using it to create stories. So we'll talk a little bit about the history of fan fiction, if that's something
Yeah.
that you're interested in. So the earliest usages of the term fan fiction start around 1939. And at this point in time, it was considered like a derogatory term. It was like a slight used to describe fan fiction that existed at the time, because fan fiction has existed for a long time before the term ever came into existence. But yeah, it was really considered a negative at that point in time. Fan fiction in its modern form has become popular around 1960s. That was largely due to Star Trek. People would publish fanzines, which is like a magazine written by fans. And there was fan fiction included in those, and it just sort of took off from there, especially once the internet came into play. Fanfiction.net actually started in about 1998, which is when we really start to see stuff pop up quite frequently. And a more recent development is we're seeing people pulling fan fiction that exists on the internet and turning it into novels. Things like 50 Shades of Grey, which was that started out as a Twilight fan fiction. That's a huge controversial thing. We'll probably discuss that in a later episode because it gets into some of the finer legalities of fan fiction. So we're not going to get into that today. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add to that, my friend?
Nope. You've been Easter clear.
Excellent. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the different lengths of fan fiction?
Okay, so depending on how inspired or maybe how much you want to write, how much you want the story to be long, you can choose different can I say format,
Yeah, formats
like
is a great term for it.
of fan fiction. There are like Drabble, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, something really short, like a very short story.
Yeah, typically a drabble, like some people debate how long it can be, but typically it's considered to be 100 words. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's one shot. It's just one chapter, which is something I usually do. Uh, just I don't know. Is there like a limit, a minimum of words or something? That's
No, one shots can be any length of word count. But yeah, it's just like a one chapter thing.
okay, perfect. And then there are multi-chapter, which is, as the word suggests, like as a book, basically, like a story divided in chapters. That probably it's like from is a two-chapter story called a multi-chapter or just two shots?
I think usually it's termed a two shot, but multi chapters are usually three or more, in
Yeah.
my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay, so that's basically it. A story divided in more chapters, and that's it.
Excellent. So now we're going to get a little bit deeper. We're going to talk about the different styles, the different types, the different genres of fan fiction, if you
Yeah.
will. So, a really popular one is an alternate universe, also known as an AU. So, it's basically what it says on the tin. It's taking the characters of the original work and putting them in a different setting, a different era, things like that. So, some pretty common ones that you'll see are coffee shop AUs, which is, where they're usually at least one character works at the coffee shop, and usually there's another who comes into the coffee shop quite frequently, and usually it's kind of romantic in general. Another popular one is in high school AU, which is where the characters are in high school, or
Hmm.
sometimes they're the high school teachers. That's a pretty common one as well. Soulmate AUs can take any form, but it's basically with the premise that soulmates are something that are that's something that exists and are known about. Sometimes it's like you have a tattoo with your soulmate's name or something like that. And then a pretty common one you'll see in fandoms that aren't Harry Potter is a Hogwarts AU. Okay, and another type is a crack fic, which is sort of like weird for the sake of weird. It doesn't have to make any sense. It's usually kind of off the wall. I don't usually write a lot of these or read a lot of them, but they can be fun. Uh, you'll see episode tags, which is usually in like a TV show is where you'll see them, which is something that ties into the episode, or it's like a post episode or episode rewrite. It in some way is affiliated with a specific episode.
Hmm.
Another type is a plot what plot, which is basically just smut for the sake of smut. There's no storyline to it, it's just sex. And we'll get into the next type a little bit more in a different episode, but crossovers, which is taking two or more fandoms and mashing them together. And then the final, obviously, this is an exhaustive list, but these are sort of the ones that came up off the top of our heads.
Yeah.
Another one you'll see is fandom specific types of
Hmm.
fanfic. So you'll see case fics, which are in fandoms like Criminal Minds or CSI, where there's a case that they might work in the show. So it's sort of a stylized version of what you might see in canon. There's
Crime
10.
fiction, crime shows. Sorry,
Yes,
usually.
yes, absolutely. There's in Lord of the Rings, there's something called the 10th Walker fix, which is basically um, original characters or characters from other fandoms that are part of the Fellowship. And then this is something that I was Googling different types of fandom specific fictions. And one that came up was called Late to Hogwarts Fix, which is basically a character didn't get their letter when they were 11, or for whatever reason, they weren't able to go to Hogwarts when they were 11. So they arrived later in their schooling. So I've never read any of those, but that's something that you might see. Anything you want to add to that?
Not really. Just would like to ask you which one is your favorite. I kind of know it, but
I love an alternate universe. I think there's so many different things you can do with them. They're so freeing because you're not bound by canon. So
Mhm.
I really like to write or read an alternate universe.
Okay, that's it.
How about you? What's your favorite type?
I don't know. I mean, it depends if you mean my favorite to read or to write, because usually I can keep like the suspense up that much, so I usually write um, one shot. So it's usually like a case fic, more or less like related to criminal minds, or something related to a case. But if I have to read, I like high school AU
Yeah,
more than others.
those
Yeah,
ones are fun.
yeah.
Okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the subtypes?
Okay, so according to your fantasy or what you like to write or to read, it depends, you can choose different types for a story. There is heart comfort, which is where someone there is a character suffering something bad happening, and I don't know how to explain it really, really well.
Do you want me to help you?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So basically, a hurt comfort fic is where there's some sort of emotional or physical pain being heaped upon one character, and then other characters come in and provide
Supporting.
some form of comfort to the character that's being hurt.
Okay, I thought it was too much. It wasn't explaining too much, but okay. So the next one, I don't know it very well, as you can.
No, no, not at all.
Okay, we are two liars. The second one is fluff, which is strangely something I found myself really good. I don't like. I'm not. I wouldn't say good, but it's something like I tend to do, like something really romantic and stuff like that. Even though I'm not, and basically it's just about. As I said, romantic stuff and this kind of things, fluffy things, cute, soft, and whatever.
Yeah,
Okay, then there is angst, where there is how can I say without using that word? Like
it's sort of like hurt comfort, but without the comfort element.
yeah, okay, perfectly. There's a conflict. I mean, in acting, we say there is a sort of conflict between characters or characters and the environment and stuff.
Hmm, yeah,
Okay. My lesson are going well. And then there is the smooth, which is something like kinky. We can say
yeah,
that, like something like including sex or really close to that.
yeah.
And that's it. I mean, do you
Excellent.
want to add something?
No, I think you got it really well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we're going to talk a little bit about, I've termed them special cases. They're sort of they're different genres of fan fiction that are evolving or have evolved, and I've wanted to talk about them a little bit more in depth than the others. So the first one we're going to talk about is character reader pairings, which is like a fic that you'll read where they don't have a, sorry, how do I phrase this? The usually they're romantic in nature, and it's a character or characters from the media interacting usually romantically with the person reading the fic. So they'll be termed your name, or you'll see it YN in the fic, and that's when you insert your name. So it's like you're the one who's falling in love with the character. Not everybody likes these. It's very up to you how you feel about them. You'll find discourse about it, but my philosophy is if it makes you happy, like it's not hurting anybody, so go ahead and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything you want to talk about on that?
Not really. Like I've tried to write it just once, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and for someone I know. And I don't know, it's kind of hard to write it because, like, probably it's because I'm not an English native speaker, but it's for the use of verbs, it's something totally different than imagining. two character already made, like
Yeah.
you already have the character. You don't have to imagine that much as much you are when you write an character reader fiction. But it's good, like just for a change. It's something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the next one we're going to talk about is original characters. So this is
Yep.
when the author invents a character that's not found in the source material.
Mhm.
Um, so this character can be anything. It can be a self insert, which is when you write the character basically as you. It may or may not have your name. Um, and yeah, you just sort of insert this character that you made up into the story. And one thing that you might hear when this type of fic is discussed is Mary Sue's, which is usually a derogatory term, which is basically where there's this original character is perfect. They have no flaws. Everybody falls in love with them. They're totally gorgeous and breathtaking, and they have no faults. Um, so of course, it should be noted that you can have characters in canon that are Mary Sue's. That's sometimes a matter of opinion. Um, but yeah, just sort of be aware that characters usually have flaws, and
Yeah.
nobody's perfect. Nobody's like everybody's not going to fall in love with one person. Like that's just not realistic. So, but if writing a Mary Sue makes you happy, go ahead and do it. But you might get some flack for it. Anything you want to add about that?
Not really. Like probably the only thing is that you have to make the original character really believable, as you were saying about the Mary Sue risk. It's like maybe try since maybe the original, no, sorry, the canon character are like people who read the fiction know them. They don't know the original character. It's just in your head, so you have to like um, put the figure you have in your mind on digital paper at least, like
Yeah.
make people believe what you're thinking, like imagine them what you want them to do and whatever, if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that it's a little bit more difficult to write an
Yeah,
original character because, people that read fanfic are attached to the media characters. So you have to sort of make them want to root for the original character.
yeah, precisely.
Excellent. Cool. And another one we're going to talk about is RPF, which is real person fic. So this is fan fiction written about real people, usually actors, musicians. There's a lot of like One Direction fic out there, so that's would be considered real person fic. Um, Depending on who you talk to, some people consider this to be kind of ethically gray because when you're writing fanfic, it's fictional characters. So it's so, when you're writing about real people, it's sometimes a little bit creepy in some people's
Hmm.
minds. Um, so just be aware that when you're writing this, it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Some people may point out to you that it's you know maybe a little morally unpalatable. Um, but yeah, it's something that exists, and it's totally something you can write if that floats your boat. It's just something to think about whether if you were famous, would you want somebody writing this about you? So just something to mull over if this is something you're considering writing or reading. Anything you want to add about
Yeah.
that?
No, not really. I guess you said everything. It
Cool. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how to get started as a fic writer?
Okay, so since probably between the two of us, I'm the one with less experience. uh, So um, the first thing we think you should do is read other fiction in the fandom you want to write for. Like for in my case, I've read like a bunch of other criminal minds fiction before starting to write or attempting to write
Mhm.
mine fictions. And of course, it's not like it's just to inspire you to know how the thing works, not
Mhm.
like to stall ideas or something of that's that's the meaning. Then you have to make some decisions, like which ship or character, usually it's mainly about ships, you want to write about, how long you want it to be, and which genre, like AU, like fluff, angst, or something like that.
Mhm.
Something to add to that?
No, I think you're covering it so far.
Okay,
I'm totally with you.
okay, cool. Then make a research if necessary. Like for example, like if you're writing for Criminal Minds, and since it's a show about serial killer, of course you have to know what a serial killer is. If you want to talk about something specific about, I don't know, like a specific, a real existing serial killer or case or whatever, you have to make research, or even something that's not strictly related to the show. Maybe, I don't know, you want to write one of the character being pregnant and have some problem during the pregnancy. You have to make it believable, like it's not something you totally made invent or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, well, the next step is actually write. Either like old school, like both of us do, like actually writing with pen and paper, if I can do it, or just type it up on your laptop, tablet, or whatever you use. And that's it. Probably, I mean, read the story more than once after you finish writing, and then probably you should editing it to know if everything is correct. Like not really grammar about grammar, but like in general, like if a character is believable, if you think a character will believe in a certain way in some situation or whatever. And about that, you may need a bit reader, which is someone who checks your story.
Mhm.
Either the grammar, like in my case, since I'm not a native speaker, but I write English, I need someone to check my grammar. But it could be about everything, like how believable the story is, if it makes sense, if I don't know, if everything is, as I said, believable and stuff.
Yeah.
And last but not least, you have to post it. Unless you want to write just for yourself. But
Yeah.
probably if you write fan fiction, you would like other people from your fandom or other fandom to read your work. And about this, you have different choices. We have AO3, which is archive of your own.
Mhm.
Okay. Then fanfiction.net, or ff.net for short. We have Wattpad,
Yep.
Tumblr. Tumblr has a bunch of fiction as well, and I don't know the last one. Dream with.
Yeah, I've only used it once or twice, but yeah, you can find fanfic on there too. Excellent.
And that's it.
Great job. So last talking point we've got here is my lovely co-host and I are going to talk a little bit about our experiences as fic writers and how we sort of got started in the game. Um, so I believe I talked about it in a different episode, but I sort of first found fan fiction around 2018, 2019. Um, and I'm not exactly sure how I came across it, but I found a link to a Harry Potter fic, and I thought, hey, I can do this. I should totally do this. So I actually remember very vividly writing my first fic in my head um, at work. And I was a physiotherapy aide at the time, and I had the job of closing up the clinic that night. So I was like wiping down the therapy beds and stuff like that, cleaning stuff, and I'm writing this fic in my head. And it was a song fic about Sugarland's song Already Gone, and it was an Emily Prentice character study. I have since deleted that fic because it was one of my it was my very first one, and I didn't have the option to orphan it at the time because that's a recent development on AO3. Um, but yeah, that's sort of how I first got started, and it just sort of snowballed from there. Especially when I figured out what ship that I liked at the time. That was Derek and Emily, and I still really love them, but I don't write them as much anymore. But that's sort of how I got started. Do you have any questions?
No, that's really, really cool. I mean, I already knew it, so
Yes, I
I
know
don't
you
have.
did. Now tell us about you.
Okay, so I don't know. I began just for like chance. I don't really know that. Like back then, I was part of this chat group, like fan group of criminal minds, like in my country, like. And that's when I've pretty much discovered what fanfiction were, but there weren't many fics about my ship, which is Emily and Derek, the Emily. So I've started to look for more fiction about them, and that's when I came across the huge Crown Mine fandom worldwide, and when I started reading fan fiction in English, and when I discovered my co-host as a writer, of course, and nothing. I've just started to write fan fiction because I wanted to like be another Damily writer in the group, because we were like I was feeling like we were just a small teeny tiny group, and at the very beginning I was like, okay, I don't care, I'm gonna just put words together hoping that they make sense, with the goal of at least improving my English. Like I didn't have any intention to like be famous or seen as a fan fiction writer. I just wanted to improve my English, basically, using something I really love. And nothing then, strangely, no one ever insulted me yet about them, about my story. So I just kept writing every once or or twice per I don't know, season pretty much. I basically just added a few pieces to an episode, alternative ending, and stuff like that. And that's it. That's what led me to know my friend here. And so I'm really glad I did. Like sometimes I regret that choice because I regret meaning like not having a good self-esteem. I can be like, it's not a good point, but I'm glad I've had the chance to meet other Criminal Minds fans and amazing people like the one I'm doing this podcast with.
Me too.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. So that's the Fanfiction 101. Thank you to everybody who listened, and we hope you'll tune in for our next episode. We'll definitely
Yes.
be doing a Fanfiction 202 at some
Yeah.
point, get a little deeper into some of the meat of it, and we hope you will can tune in for that. Thank you so much to all of you, and we'll see you soon. Bye
Bye.
bye.